Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Jenelle Riley from Variety. Before we're joined by our guest today, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs to SAG-AFTRA members. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given over $6.5 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. So if you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and you need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Octavia Spencer and Kate Hudson of Truth Be Told. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. As I mentioned in the intro, this is for an audience of your fellow SAG-AFTRA artists. So I actually always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card? What was the job that brought that important card to you? We can start with Octavia.
I was on A Time to Kill and had one line, innocent, innocent. We won. And that was my SAG card.
And you weren't really an actor then, right? You were working in casting.
I was working in casting. I wanted to act, but, I wanted to also work, and be able to pay my bills. So I was behind the scene in production, and I was in the casting office. And every other job I had, directors had asked me to read for like a small role, and I turned them down. And A Time to Kill, they didn't ask me to read for anything, and I wanted to. So I asked to read, and I got the part.
You turned them down? What were you thinking?
I think, when you're not really sure that, because then if I read and then they didn't give me the part, it would have just been terrible.
Fair.
Devastating. Isn't that what we're supposed to do, though? I mean, isn't that like, I always say, like, the auditioning process gets you ready for any kind of success because it's so brutal, Mm-hmm. Auditioning is like, you talk about rejection, just continuous, like show up, reject, and then you get into the industry and you're like, oh, wow, they really like prepared me for this. That process was a good preparation. Mine was Party of Five.
Oh, wow. I love that show.
I love that show so much.
I was 16 or 17. Yeah, I got this part playing the girl that broke up Nev Campbell and got Michael Gorgon, I think his name is. And I got my SAG card.
Wow. I feel like I might remember that.
I feel like I remember that too.
Yes, that was you.
Naughty Kate. Yeah, I would. No, yeah, that was the, yeah. It was so exciting. And then I didn't realize that my whole life I'd been a part of the SAG benefits because I was a child of, working actors. And I was very lucky. We're very lucky.
We are very lucky.
Well, I would love to start with Octavia for the second season of Truth Be Told. After such a successful first season, how did you feel about returning? Sometimes when something is so good the first time around, you're a little nervous about a sophomore slump. Did you have scripts? Did you always know from the start there was going to be a season 2?
We hoped. I love playing this character because I feel like out of all the people that I've played that I know her, she's not close to anything, any part of my personality, but I think she's a contemporary of mine. And so I hoped that we would come back, and I was excited when I heard the pitch of what the season would be and that we would be working with Kate. So it was very, very exciting for me to come back.
And Kate, as we've just learned, you've done episodic TV before, but I believe this is
hardly. I did Party of Five for like 5 seconds, and then I did Glee. I did a couple episodes of Glee,
right,
which was fun. But this was my first time doing, a full season of a show. It was really fun and thrilling. Actually, I was nervous going into it, just because. It's a long time to work with people and not knowing where it's going to go. You're sort of like, you show up with, the script, and then it's kind of unfolds as you're doing it. And I was like, I'm putting a lot of trust into this.
Yes.
But who better to put trust into than Octavia? So we had a blast, and it was so fast. I'm spoiled now. Like any other experience, I don't know. It's got a lot to live up to.
You know what? Literally, I'm saying the same thing. Like, you were such a wonderful co-star. Like, it was an awesome experience, and I love what you brought to the show. And I just I hope to see another time when we can have you back.
I know, do it again. Or, I was thinking about it. If I don't know if you're doing another season or not, but I was like, I'm going to be so jealous. And I'm not even, yeah, of course the show, but like, who's working with Octavia? I'm like, no one will have a relationship like us.
No one.
I'll make sure of it. I'll just sit there on set like this.
Oh, you'll be missed.
Two of you do play old friends, and I'm curious, did you know each other at all before working together? And did that chemistry between the two of you just sort of happen instantly?
We had met at an awards function, but I literally have just loved everything I've seen her do, and so I've been a fan. But it was instant. It was kismet when we met.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it? Like we both, it's that moment where you kind of like feel it inside for a couple of days. And then finally Octavia looked at me and she's like, I feel like I've known you my whole life. And I'm like, I know we have. It's definitely like past life stuff that we have together. Like, it was really immediately connected.
Yeah. But I will say to Kate, for Kate's, with regard to Kate, she was like that with the entire cast. Everybody's just like, it was as if she had known us all, and everyone loved working with her. It was so welcoming, so accessible. Not a lot of people are accessible, and you were so accessible and kind and fun. And, that's the human side, but the professional in you as an actress was just wonderful to play off of.
Oh, so I ditto. It's always a love fest when Octavia.
That's fine.
But it was, we had a great, I think, and like, this is our community of actors. And I think, when you work with people who come prepared and they love what they do, you can really feel it. It's very different than someone who's searching and unprepared and not like, you can tell that they're not, whether it's coming from their insecurity or whatever it is, that they're not focused on the work. And so when you have a partner that you really show up for each other, it's like the best feeling.
It really is.
Your entire cast is fantastic. You have people like Mekhi Phifer and David Lyons and Tracy Toms. It must be so exciting to get to set every day and get to share a scene with one of these all-stars.
Absolutely. The wonderful thing about it is you're different people in life, you're different with different people. And so whenever you knew that you'd have scenes with, David or Ron Cephas Jones or Hanifa, who plays Saidi, it was just a different energy, and one that I all of those actors bring something unique to the characters that they play. So with that professionalism and the love that we all have for each other on set, it just, you see it on the screen. You see it in the scene work,
I got to work with Mekhi. I loved Mekhi so much. He's the best. And same with Hanifa, is just like, what a talent. So much talent in this cast. It was really fun to watch everybody work.
I'm going to guess that you're both really good at keeping secrets. Did you know where your characters were going this season? Did you have all the scripts up front? Kate, did you ever wonder if you were guilty?
I didn't know anything, and I was actually really happy to not. I kind of went into it going, all right, I'm going to find out when everybody else finds out. And So that's how I did it. And there were moments that were challenging because it was like in my head, I was going, I can't control wherever this is going. I just have to stay really present. Mm-hmm. And I felt it was an interesting exercise as an actor. Mm-hmm. It was nice. I think maybe Octavia knew a little more than I knew.
I did. I always like the broad strokes. I don't like the minutia, because then I it's not how we live. You don't know every move that you're going to make. It's not all planned out. So, but I did know the broad strokes. I didn't know the little juicy little pieces, but the broad strokes I did.
Kate, was it challenging to play a character when you didn't know really like the whole story, or did you sort of enjoy finding it out when we did?
Yeah, no, there were times that were hard for me. I mean, there were times that I was like, I think you guys need to tell me something because I don't know I don't know like how I'm supposed to approach this, but like anything else, I think that it's kind of what makes what we do thrilling. And I respected that no one was going to sort of lead me too far away from where it needed to be. But yeah, there were moments but my thing was I knew Micah so well as a character, as I do like going into anything, that, I kind of would just play around with different ways. Sometimes I would do it very differently. I would do one scene in two different ways,
mm-hmm. Which was exciting for me to play opposite, I got to tell you, because it was just, you throw something in there and it was like, ooh.
Yeah. Some days I'd get real dark and some days I would lighten it up, and you know what I mean? Depending on what we were doing and switching it around. And yeah.
I mean, I'm curious actually about preparing for this role, Kate, because you play, sort of a self-help guru. What did you sort of do to prepare for Micah?
I mean, she's much more than a self-help guru. I think actually she's not really like internally is. So I think, what for me, preparing for Micah was more about who she is as a survivor and how she's sort of kind of created this very structured, kind of monotone, almost like, how she remains calm in her life. Like she's sort of like buttoned everything up and pushed things away and down, and how they unravel as the season goes on, and how she's sort of constantly trying to hold on to her, her facade. So that to me was the most interesting part of Micah. And then the self-help stuff. I mean, that's, she's a writer who found herself, as she says, in this position, and then feels like she owes it to her fans. And like a lot of people who come out of that and kind of get into these big, where people see them as these saviors, you can kind of feed into it. And I think Micah has fed into a lot of how other people see her. So that sort of narcissistic tendency of hers, of like that she's is beyond any rule or law, or is constantly present in something that she's navigating. So she's kind of interesting and complicated. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Did I make this up, or did I hear somewhere that Tony Robbins was a little bit of an influence? Maybe just in the...
No, I think sure. I not really. I didn't look up Tony Robbins, although I do know him and he's fantastic.
Really?
I have some friends who actually love Tony Robbins and are very committed to that. But I just kind of saw her as like a Tony Robbins sort of Oprah, these big sort of people who talk about what is the best version of your life. Mm-hmm. And I do that. What that part wasn't hard to understand for me. It was more of just the complexities of where she came from, and the relationship to Poppy, Octavia's character. That's complicated.
Side note, Tony Robbins is a pretty good actor. I've seen him do like comedy bits before, and I've been really impressed.
Hey, anybody who can get up on a stage and like do all that, I mean, they definitely have the ability to act. That's for sure. You can't.
Seriously.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I feel like, or at least like, maybe not the technique of it, but they can definitely do good stuff. I would think that Tony Robbins would be good at that.
I can't even imagine. The only thing I find more terrifying than that is like doing stand-up. The idea is horrifying.
That would be terrifying for sure.
Octavia, coming into this new season, Poppy has, a lot going on. Did you do anything special to prepare for the character in this season?
What I always like to do is create memories. When I know who the characters the new players are going to be, I like to create memories that we have. So I had to go back and make up stuff, and none of it would be a part of what you guys know, but it's the secrets that we share, or experiences that we would have had. So that sort of thing, and just brushing up on my crime scene investigative type techniques.
Are you a fan of true crime podcasts?
Oh yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
What are some of your favorites or some of the new ones that we might not have heard of?
Well, podcasts, let me rephrase that. I'm a fan of the true crime genre. I'm a fan of podcasts. I haven't really listened to very many true crime podcasts because I'd like to keep that space very sacred for Poppy, and only bring in my own interpretation of that character. But I live in a true crime heavy life,
she doesn't miss a Dateline.
No.
Like, it's not happening. Like, if that's on television, Octavia's in front of it.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's on tonight, as a matter of fact. That is my Friday night viewing.
DVR'd.
It's like you can't stop. It's like you're just like, what? That's crazy.
It's exactly like, the fact that all of these things happen and play out in our real world. That's why I think this character is so fun, because it's based on, real life, things, but the crimes that happen aren't necessarily true crimes, which is good for me.
And these characters, they obviously deal with a lot this season, and you're required to go to some dark places. What was the atmosphere on set like for both of you? Do you have a way of sort of decompressing after a tough day, or do you take your character home with you sometimes?
Do you want to go first?
No, you take that.
Someone once told me that I'm the most non-method actor that they know. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then as I got older, I was like, oh, and now I know what she was talking about. I'm really good at leaving my work on set. Like because I've got three kids, and so I'm good at kind of leaving it. But then I do realize that I do take on things that I don't realize I'm taking on, even like wardrobe. Like all of a sudden I'll put an outfit on. I'm like, oh, I'm Micah Saturday. Like I'm wearing like all monochromatic, just thinking like, how the fuck did I end up wearing this? This is not what I would normally wear. Or I will start kind of finding myself energetically in similar spaces, emotionally. And then the only thing for me that's hard is that the only thing for me as an actor are when it's a mentally hard day where there's been a lot of more like lines than anything. Because if I'm crying, if it's like a big day where I'm crying or we're I come home, I'm like ready to party. Like I am. I'm like, oh, it's done. It's over. I did it. It feels good. I got it out. I feel like I nailed it a little bit. And then I feel like I'm somehow energized.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to do like monologue lines like I did in this show, and I come home and the kids, I come home to like 500 kids asking me 500 questions, I'm like, that's my experience. What about you, babe?
Poppy is a very different character for me, but normally I when I'm in a character or on a project, I kind of cocoon, and just sort of just keep it simply that project until I'm done with it. So in a way I do bring it home, but I don't, I try not to bring their problems home with me, because I create just my preparation time and deal with whatever the character's dealing with, but I don't make those choices until I go to set, because you want it to be organic and authentic. But it was definitely dark for me this season because of the fact that our characters were family, and worrying about, was I wrong about who, my friend was? And so that was hard. Also hard because we're doing it in a pandemic and also wanting to keep our crew safe. But it was also so much more fun to be at work and playing this character rather than being out there in the real world. So
yeah, we really were kind of in this little bubble.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Since the season is out and everyone has seen it, I presume, before they watch this, if not, go back and finish the season, and then come back. What did end up being the most challenging scene or moment, or just, way to reach the character for both of you this season?
Anything dealing with family, Poppy's, it was all about relationships with Poppy. And I think the fact that so many of her relationships were in trouble, really, that was a through line. And so I can't say, well, it was the breakdown of Micah and Poppy's relationship, or the breakdown of my marriage, or the relationship with my sisters because they felt that I was keeping information about our father. So there were a lot of, Poppy went through it. So I can't say just one or identify just one challenge. The entire season was a challenge with regard to the relationships.
I would say for me, it would be not like ugly crying on the last scene that Octavia and I did. Which happened when I said thank you to everybody. I started ugly crying, but honestly, that scene was so hard for me to stay centered because I was so sad it was over with Octavia. Yeah. It was like, oh my God, I was so sad. And not sad is the wrong word. I was so grateful. And I was just, it made me so emotional. And so that scene for me was probably the hardest one to control, kind of, stay in Micah, stay in Micah in that moment was really hard. I just wanted to cry on Octavia, oh my God.
Oh, I was bawling because it literally was like, my friend. It was a tough one. It
was a tough last scene.
Yeah.
But that was honestly, that was the hardest moment for me, was that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if a third season has been discussed, but, is there a reason Kate couldn't come back?
There's no reason that Kate couldn't come back. But Kate is a busy woman, but there's no reason. There's no reason.
I mean, it's so great that you have that chemistry. I'm sort of curious about the times when maybe you don't, maybe someone on set isn't, in the same universe as you, or, how do you sort of work through those challenging times? Or maybe that's what acting is.
That's why it's called acting.
That's when you realize you're getting paid.
That's and you have to also, for me, I've been very, very fortunate. You don't have great chemistry with everyone. But I think if you are doing your job as an actor, you tune into whatever it is that you're supposed to feel for the other people. Not everyone falls madly in love with each other upon their
definitely not.
But I'm grateful that we did. And it was the same thing with season 1, Lizzie and Aaron and Elizabeth. It was, I feel very grateful. I think it's wonderful when you do have great chemistry.
I find it very interesting, having been not only an observer as a young girl watching my parents and on sets. I was very aware of everything that was. I was in awe of what they did, and when I was on set, I always felt like I was always behind the camera watching, and then I could see relationships between actors outside of me being a part of them from a very young age, and then having those relationships. Like, I've had a very interesting relationship to it, because when I was younger, I had really no tolerance for actors who were unkind. I still do have a very low tolerance for it, but or what people would call difficult. And then as I got older, I was like, everybody's process is so different, that I became a little bit more flexible in allowing whoever I'm working with to it's hard. As we all know, it isn't an easy job. It's actually quite challenging, and we have to put out so much of ourselves, and so many insecurities come up, and people have to manage a lot internally in order to get out really good things, and then everybody's process is so different that I've become very patient, I think, with people's processes can on the outside sometimes look difficult, when in fact they're just trying to do the best job. And then the other thing is that, like Octavia was saying, you're not going to have a relationship like we did with everybody that you work with. And when those moments happen, they're like these little lotus flowers.
I know. Kate is sunlight, warmth, warming the world. I love it.
I love being on movie sets. I grew up on one, and I continue to love it, and I missed it. And we were like in this pandemic, so lucky to be working, even though it was intimidating and kind of scary at times. We're so lucky. And I just felt like, when I'm on that set, I don't know, I'm always the little girl. Like, I'm always the little girl wanting to help wardrobe. But instead I have to be in front of the camera, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta go. I just love the whole atmosphere of being, doing what we do.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if not a season 3, I want to see you guys in some sort of like buddy road trip comedy together soon.
I know.
Singing, Kate. She has the most amazing voice. And listening sometimes to her and Hanifa and Tracy, it was like, wow.
Wow. That's beautiful. Amazing.
Beautiful voice.
Love to sing. Yeah, there's a lot of singers on this set. Really
people who walk around singing, just like singing. It was, which makes for a joyful set, though.
And Octavia helps the joyful set, because she always brings food, like the best food. I'd have moments where I'm like, well, maybe I should do something. And like Friday, like Octavia brought the entire sushi of all of Los Angeles. And you're like, oh my God, or like the ramen truck, and then the coffee truck. And I was like, oh, Octavia just loves to keep everybody happy and internally cozy. And
thank you. But you know what? I think this was a very challenging season for everybody. And for me, it was about, we were asking our crew to stay in a bubble, to not see their friends, to not see their family. So if you can't go to a bar and have a drink with your pals, well, you can't drink on the set either, but I'm going to make sure that, we get you an In-N-Out burger, or, there's some good sushi, so that you have that at least a little part of your day that you realize that, hey, we appreciate you, and we certainly appreciated our crew. But we had an amazing cast and crew. We just did, and I feel grateful.
Everybody was just so great.
Well, it's such a great season. I want to thank you both so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your experiences in craft with your fellow actors. And thank you everyone for watching at home.
Thank you.
Thank you.